Hi, everybody. Welcome to another live podcast episode. This is a special episode of Woke Wise College Kids, my podcast. This season is dedicated especially to my book, Live Wiser, if you can see behind me. And so I am still promoting this book. And so you are going to hear a lot these next couple of episodes if you're listening on any of the traditional audio podcast channels and platforms, or if you're joining me here on Facebook or YouTube Live. We're going to be doing this all throughout the month of August and September. I have some really great guests, and we're going to follow chapter by chapter from my book, Live Wiser, The Ultimate Guide to Adulting Post-Grad. And so today I have a very special guest. I'm not sure how I met her. I just started following her on Instagram. Then I read her book. And this is like about 2 years before I wrote Live Wiser. And it was on my mind, but she captured in a fiction way what I had in mind for Live Wiser. And so her name is Eugenia Jefferson. She was a frustrated millennial like all of us. She eventually found her passion and purpose as a writer. As an undergrad, she received her bachelor's degree in journalism and marketing. Journalism from Eastern Illinois University, and then a master's degree in integrated marketing from Roosevelt University. She lives in Chicago, and she enjoys writing contemporary women's fiction. And so I'm going to bring her on, give her a warm welcome.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Here.
Yeah, I think this has been a long time coming. I said that about my guest last week, and she was my best friend. But thank you so much. I've been so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
No problem. So before we get started, we're going to hear a little bit more about you. I know that bio does not, I know you do a whole lot more than what I just read. The bio doesn't even include that, but I just want to play a fun game just to get all the jitters out, things like that. So it's an either or, your preferences, and it can be a wide variety of things. So I'm a foodie, and for some reason, all my lists start off with food. And so do you prefer popcorn or chips?
Ooh, I actually love this because I am a foodie too. Let's see. I like chips. Popcorn gets stuck in my teeth.
Gotcha. Jill or Erica, as in Jilly from Philly or Erica from Dallas?
Oh gosh. You know, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go with Jill. I love Erica, but I love Jill too. But yeah, it's a toss up, but I would say Jill.
Jill I think is my pretend friend in the back of my mind.
Right. on my honesty, right?
Yeah. I don't think you can go wrong with either or.
Right.
So we'll do a different genre, Tupac or Biggie?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm not trying to anger anybody that's Team Biggie or Team Tupac, but I would say Tupac because he's a little bit more, literary.
Gotcha. Audiobook or print?
Ooh, now that's a good one. I do love a good print book though. Like I'm the type that goes to the bookstores and just goes just look at books all day. Yeah. So even though I do listen to audiobooks, I would prefer print.
Gotcha. Plain or peanut M&Ms? Again, I was like, why is food on my mind?
Let's see. I like peanut.
Okay.
Why not?
Marvel or DC?
Marvel. Team Marvel all day.
Yes, not DC because I knew you were a blurred.
Yes.
Blurred like me. So
Marvel all day. I do DC, but like I'm a Marvel, Team Marvel all day.
Gotcha. Me too. I'm gonna go see Justice League because of its ties to directors and behind the scenes of Marvel. That's the only reason I'm going to see Justice League.
Okay.
And one that really tells people who you are, Android or Apple?
I'm an Apple. I'm sorry. I'm
Ah,
Android. I'm Apple everything, and I actually blame that from my college. Like college exposed me to Apple computers, and so now I just have
you are
Apple
marketing, so
everything.
y'all
Yeah.
are much more. I got you. I won't
Not
fault you
saying
for
it's
that at
better. I'm
all.
just saying that's why I've inherited.
Well, thank you for playing along with me.
No problem.
Um, so let's go to our fun question. So,
Sure.
talked a little bit about your undergrad. Tell us again, where did you go to school?
Yeah, so I went to Eastern Illinois University, which is in a very small town in central Illinois. And I, for my graduate, I went to Roosevelt University, which is in Chicago. So I got my bachelor's in journalism and my master's in integrated marketing communications.
Okay. Was that your first major?
Yes, it was. I knew I wanted to go into something writing related. So like when I was younger, I wanted to be a writer, of course, and I was told that writers don't make any money. So I was like, okay, what's the alternative here? And that's when I chose like journalism. I'm like, okay, I like the news, writing, why not?
Okay. So going back, if you could like write a description or put yourself as like in a category, what type of college student were you?
I would say I was pretty quiet. Like I kind of kept to myself. It really I wasn't like parties or wild. I kind of like had a set group of friends and kind of like found I wasn't the best student. I wouldn't say that. I would say actually I found a better way to study as I got closer towards the end of
Mm-hmm.
my college because like I struggled like freshman sophomore year a little bit. Those gen ed classes kicked my behind. uh, but once I got into my major and I found out an effective way to learn how to study, I got better grades. And actually, I graduated. I was on my way to 2 point some and got into the like mid three, like 3.0 part.
Yeah, I think that's the story of all of us. Like
Yeah.
you just if you can handle that transition and ride it out and figure out a way to come back, then I think that's like the path to like graduation. If you
Mhm.
can't really swing that first year and get it right and rebound second year, then yeah, it's a tough roller coaster.
Right.
Yeah. Um so what is your like looking back, what was your like most fondest memory that sticks out? Like when you think about college, what pops out in your mind?
To be honest, I think like everything, like one thing I liked about college is that it kind of taught me who I was as a person or what type of person I was developing into. When I was at home, I was, kind of like, very dependent upon my parents. I'm the only child. So, they did everything. I went to college. I was like, on my own for the first time. And that was it was scary but also refreshing because I was able to kind of learn stuff about budgeting, about doing my own laundry for the first time. My mom, I was like asking her like how the lights and the darks and everything, how to wash clothes, but just kind of learning how to manage my time too, because college classes is way more intense than high school. So you have to kind of, they'll tell you to read three chapters. And those three chapters are 60 pages each.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, and all of the classes, no matter how many classes you have, they're saying the same amount of work or reading, or they're
Yeah.
expecting 14-page theses in 2 weeks. And so, like I have like vivid memories of like I remember I started going to the library a lot towards the end of my undergrad. I remember late night pizza. um I used to work as a copy editor for my school newspaper, so I would stay up late and most of the time I'd be starving. So I remember like going at midnight to get pizza, which is not the greatest thing if you're trying to be healthy.
I mean, our
But
metabolism was way better back then.
girl, it sure was. Definitely
We can do that. Now it stays
back
with us
now.
forever.
But yeah, it was just like just small moments, like hanging out with my friends, and just kind of like like even keep in touch with some of my professors via social media. But yeah, like just really kind of brought me into like I would say pre-adulthood, now that I know what adulthood is now a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it kind of somewhat prepare you to be independent.
Okay. Anything you regret?
The only thing I would regret is not taking a business course. I would say,
That's good.
particular for me, especially what I'm doing now, I wish I would have took at least one business course. I was a journalism major, so most of the time I wasn't trying to do anything math related. I wanted to stick with my major, and so I'm like anything that I took. Every major has different credits, of what you needed in a particular area. So for me, it was math. It was like I think like 3 to 6 credits, and I'm like, great. I did that at a community college and got that over with. But like anything that kind of finance related, I was not trying to go into, which I kind of regret a little bit now, because I wish now I would have at least took one business class that where I could know like the basics of business, whether it was finance related or not. I think that it'll be beneficial because you never really know, especially now a lot of people are now doing their own thing and developing their own businesses and doing certain things, so it helps to know like even branding and various other stuff. Even if you're doing something journalism related, some people, they but having a business type of savvy or knowing the terms at least would be helpful.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like I should have added some of those to my electives, even though I was a biology major. But then looking back, I always knew I wanted to own my own business, but it just didn't click for me.
Right.
Yeah, and like computer science is another one of those courses I feel like I should have squeezed in there because I pay way too much, or paying way too much, like bootstrapping to like have someone to do your website and things like that. I'm like, man, if I could just would have learned those basic skills, yeah, I probably would have been a little bit further along in my journey as a business owner.
Yeah. I think it's essential because I mean, even though you might not need it or think you need it, you never really know.
Never.
I never would have thought I would be, I have an online shop, and I'm like, I didn't think about doing that even a year ago. But you just never really know. I think that it would help to have at least one business course.
Yeah. So last question. What's one piece of advice you would give to like this incoming cohort of freshmen that's just starting brand new their college journey? They may be moving in this week. What's your piece of advice for them?
I would say like enjoy the moment. I think the biggest thing is that like most of the time when we're younger, we're trying to just get through it so we can get to the next phase and the next phase. But like when you get to the end, that's when the real stuff happens. So like literally enjoy college, not like party all day, but like enjoy, the people that your friends, and enjoy like being in close proximity to my friends like that. I don't have that now. Like all of my friends, we're all on different parts of Chicago, sometimes different parts of the nation. And so like the only thing we have is social media. Whereas like, when I was in college, I'd be like, hey, let's meet at Taylor Hall and we can hang out or something. And like we don't have that type of convenience anymore. So, I think just enjoy not having many bills.
Right.
Enjoy not, being broke and being happy. Like, like most of the time I was like, I remember I used to intern at this one government's office for my summers, and I would save up all the money and have like basically ration it out each month. And I mean, it wasn't a large amount of money, but I stretched that money, and it lasted me throughout the whole year. And so I didn't have to work as much
Yeah.
when I was in college.
And
And
you can have a little bit of fun. It wasn't like you gotta,
right,
save for, like
right,
have a little bit of fun on it, but still
right,
you could be
right,
able to stretch it. Yeah, that's the good old days.
right. Now I'm just like, where
Mhm.
do these paychecks go? I'm just like,
You get paid on the first, and you broke on the first. It's gone.
right. I'm just like, oh, okay. Everybody got paid.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm broke.
So tell us what you do. So you're an author, but I know you have a 9 to 5. So tell us like about your career and what you're doing now. A little bit
Right.
more about yourself.
Yeah, so I work at a nonprofit. I'm a marketing kind of like specialist, content specialist. So I like work on website stuff. But yeah, I mean, I work a 9 to 5. So and I'm also an author. I wrote my book almost 5 years ago, in 2017. um and I just developed some other stuff on the side just this year, this podcast, and my t-shirt business.
Okay, okay. So, and we'll hear more about your podcast because I didn't like I saw the brand, I saw the marketing for it, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realize this is her podcast.
Yep, that's me.
So tell us why you chose to write a book about millennials and then adulting
Oh
because
yeah,
we get a bad rap. We do.
we do. And at the time, it's so weird. I feel like we don't, like, it's kind of almost disrespectful in a way that how we're kind of treated. We're kind of like the stepchild of the generations. And I just kind of feel like we're very kind of misunderstood in a way. I feel like we're labeled as entitled or lazy in some type of way, and we're not. I just feel like, well, at least I know I'm not. Anyway, I'm not trying to speak for all millennials, but at that time, especially when I wrote my book, I was like in my mid to late 20s, and I kind of felt like, when I was on the job, there was always kind of a generational divide.
Mhm.
I remember my boss at the time would be like, these millennials, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, we're just trying to learn. We're trying to do the best we can. I don't think like you should make a generalization towards all of us, and so like that's where kind of my book, like, about adulting, and also kind of like I was just having a hard time transitioning into, from college, which was planned out, like, what classes you're going to take, you kind of know ahead of time. And for me, I kind of developed into a planner, and then all of a sudden it was like, what next, like the applying to a job, what happens with job interviews, what to do and how to succeed on a job. And I feel like at that time I just was kind of like a fish thrown from maybe a little fish bowl into a lake or a pond. um, there's just so many directions, there's so many things I didn't learn, there's so many things that I just did not know what to do.
Yeah, so you have like when I read it, and I think I read it while I was like unemployed. If you wrote in 2017, I was trying to picture, I was like unemployed and I was just trying to figure what I'm doing, my next step, chilling a little bit.
Mhm.
And so like when I read it, it like all of the things just hit me in the face. Like, how could I end up here with 3 degrees and I'm not supposed to be here?
Right.
But I am. I mean, I'm
Right.
gonna take advantage of it and make the best of it, but I'm not supposed to be here.
Right.
And so you have like each of the characters. I feel like even I can put my friends' names
Mhm.
in each one of them, and each character, while um, they were still dealing with like similar issues. Each character had a theme. So, what were the major themes that you wanted to like illustrate in this book that were related to like adulting and problems that you saw happening with your peers and your friends?
Yeah, I think for me, like I felt like a piece of me was with every character, maybe in different parts of my life. I know in particular I was definitely Natasha and Jayla in particular. Danielle was more of kind of like more my dreamer type of state where I was very optimistic and very in a creative space. But I would say like a few of my themes were like rejection. Rejection is plays a pretty big part in my book, mostly because I think you know at the time, when you're a kid, you don't really think about like being rejected, or nobody likes to be rejected. And I feel like life, unfortunately, is a part of it is the rejection, whether it's rejection from a job, rejection from a job interview. We've all had those interviews where you're like, I know I got this, and you're like sending you that email, that generic email that's like, I'm sorry, we went with another candidate.
Yeah,
And
like I didn't even get a first email. Like you
right,
received my
sometimes
application. I didn't even know you got my application first.
right. Sometimes you don't even get an email. You just like one time I had to follow up, like a couple of them had to follow up, like, hey, did you fill the position? And they always tell you like, hey, we're willing to fill this pretty quickly. And then they fill it quickly with someone else, or there's an internal candidate or something. So like I struggled a lot with that because I was unemployed, and I've been also like terminated before, and that brings a whole different form of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you like it can hurt. And that was type of stuff, especially when I would say when I came out of school, I was very optimistic, very kind of like, yes, I can't wait to take on the world. And like I remember when I graduated from grad school, I went to work at an ad agency, I went to work at a PR agency, I want to be like working on these big campaigns that we worked on, and like in class, and I thought I could take on the world. And then the world just like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it definitely puts you in your place. Like,
Right. It's like, slow your roll. You're not there yet. You're not even your foot in the door. And so when you get the like, wait, no, not you. It hurts. And I think each of my characters, they feel some type of rejection, whether it's from like jobs not wanting them to even in the case of Danielle, she's auditioning for these plays, and they're like, no, we're going to go with someone else. All of that can feel like, oh, I'm giving my all, I did the right thing, and here it is that I'm not. It feels like you're not good enough in a sense.
mm-hmm.
And so like that's what and another theme is like uncertainty. I think adulthood in a general brings a certain amount of uncertainty. I always said that like when you're in college or even high school or any part of school life, you know what classes you're going to take the next semester, right? And so it gives you a sense of, okay, I don't know what to expect in this class, but I know I'm taking biology 102 or something because I took 101. And so in life, there is no, you know, uh, okay, you did a good job on these spreadsheets. We're gonna take you to 103 or something since you can. There's none of that. It's just like, and even your merit. Sometimes I feel like you can work super hard. I've had situations where I worked super hard on jobs and didn't get the promotion.
Yeah,
I was passed over by someone else who didn't work as hard, in my opinion. And so it's just kind of like all of that. And it's just like kind of unlearning some of the stuff that, you know, I've been taught. It's like, oh, okay, I have to kind of evolve myself in a way where, it's not about sometimes you work super hard and here's your reward. It's more like, okay, well, I have to learn how to navigate this.
yeah, that was a lot. Like, so my first chapter talk about calibrating expectations, and for me, that was like I need to rethink all of this. Like, what's the level? What success look like? What does a career look like? What does relationships and money? What does that look like? Because I had, and we know, kind of know where we get these definitions or these expectations from. But once you really boil it down, you're like, was this mine that I took ownership of, or somebody else's? And this is setting me up for total failure. So once I kind of recalibrated what I thought about careers, like, my parents retired from their jobs that they've had for over 20 years. And then, here am I trying to, like, oh, I'm gonna stay here and, work my way up. And then I realized the ceiling kept getting lower and lower and lower. And I'm like, okay, I gotta jump ship. But then, it's like, wait, am I a job hopper? And then once someone put in perspective of, okay, like, careers aren't what they used to be anymore. Like, there are a series of jobs. Like, if you're strategic about it, they'll all kind of fit. But then you just kind of leverage a little piece at a time till you're getting to your ultimate position. But then what's the ultimate position? Because then it's like, it's time for you to find something else and move on. Because either the world says, oh, okay, we found something new, this not hot no more, or you lose interest and say, hey, been there, done that, what's my next move? And so, yeah, the pieces on rejection spoke really loudly at the time. I told you I read this one. And so, all of those things, like, it just spoke so loud. Like, I feel like you captured, like, everything that I was going through in all these characters. So it was super relatable. So you talk a lot about, a lot of the characters are in various stages of post-grad. And so this live is really dedicated still to the first chapter where I cover post-grad blues. Last week I talked with my friend who's a therapist about why isn't this, like, talked about in the same space as depression? Because they're like, oh, you just you just got to find your place. You'll find a job soon, or just make it work. This don't have to be your final job, but then you're bummed because you spent all this money and time on this degree and you're not working in your field, or you're not at that job that you wanted, that you thought was so, gonna be like groundbreaking and big. And so my post-grad blues were kind of delayed because I stayed in school. Like, I went straight from undergrad to get my master's to get my PhD. Like, I didn't take off any time. So mine was like happened when I was 25, 26.
Oh yeah.
Where all of my friends were still hitting it hard because they had, experienced what you just talked about, like trying to find your strides, applying for jobs, trying to go to grad school to see if this is really it. So talk about, like, I know you talked about it a little bit, but talk a little bit more about your post-grad transition.
Yeah, I would say it was a bit of a transition. Like, it was not a smooth transition, in my opinion. First off, like, so I like I said, so I went to undergrad. I got like this job in between, and I was like, this is not it. It was like an editing job. I was editing this journal, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just gonna be honest. I did not know what I was doing, nor did I get training. And so it was just like, okay, I think I want to go back to school. I just was like feeling the hunch of, I want to go back to grad school. I missed school. And so I went, I took a year off and worked that job, and then quit and went back to grad school. And I basically gave grad school my all. Like, I loved grad school. I learned so much. I was just like so happy, go lucky. I couldn't wait to give it a try again, to get back out there, but this time at a company or be in a profession where I really felt passionate in. And so that's why I was like, I want to get inside of an ad agency or a PR agency, excuse me. And, so when I graduated, I tried the ad agencies and the PR agencies. They were not biting at all. I think it's more of a, it's all about who you know, and I didn't know anybody. And so I just thought I can get in at my own merit. And, like, I'm not saying I didn't get interviews, but I was not chosen to get in at that time. So I ended up choosing this one job. It was another association, nonprofit, and um, it was okay. Like it was like at the beginning, it was okay. However, the office politics at that company in particular was not great. And I had one woman who was like, I didn't know anything about microaggressions or all of
Mm,
that stuff until later. So all of this stuff, I just thought I wasn't good enough. So it was like
mhm.
this one woman in particular, I knew she didn't like me even from the interview. But in particular, like she was super critical. Like she would tell my boss, like, "Hey, she didn't do this right. She didn't do that." And they had me as a designer at the job. Excuse me. And I was like, I'm not a that the best designer. I'll do the best I can. But I don't think it was good enough for the woman that I was working with taste. And so like after they kind of gave me like an ultimatum and was like, if you don't straighten up, we're gonna have to get rid of you. And I just was like, I'm trying, I'm at no training, nothing. Like this is lean mean, just me, you know, throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And yeah, at the end of the day, they decided to let me go. And I would say that was it was one of the most painful things I've experienced. Um, and I mean, this wasn't, you know, and also like you have to realize like the shame that comes with it. Because it's like, how do I go to another job and be like, hey, uh,
Yeah.
I wasn't laid off, I was terminated. And then also, I felt like in that year and a half, in that year I was there, I didn't feel good enough. So I was kind of like almost, um, you know, microaggression out. And so like it took a huge hit to my self-esteem. It took a huge hit to my career. So I ended up going to a PR agency.
Oh wow.
I went backwards, right? So ended up getting a internship at a PR agency. And then I went to another PR agency and did a freelance job, but I was passed over for promotions. And so it was just like this this whole thing, this is not it. And during that time, when after I got fired from that job, I was like, I have to write something. I never like actually I remember I used to write little stories when I was younger. I kind of put that to rest for about a good 10 years. And I
Mhm.
decided I'm like, I have to do something. I'm like unemployed, applying to all these jobs, nobody's getting back to me, or if they are, they are sending me rejection letters. So I'm just like, okay, I wrote Natasha's story, and I remember the first chapter, and I was like, okay, um I didn't I kept going with Natasha, so I think I wrote her first 3 chapters, and then I was like, let me do something more, because I felt like, okay, I needed more characters. And so that's when I developed Danielle and Jayla, who were kind of like other parts of my life. And so it was just, not the smoothest transition for me. Eventually, I did find my footing. I work at a really great company now, but uh, it just was, for me. It was just really rough, and I know my story isn't exactly, um, what others. I had other friends, like one of my friends from grad school, like she knew people, her
Mhm.
career, like she's at the top of her game right now, and that's incredible. Whereas for me, I felt like I had to kind of go back to the start, and I wasted that year at that company, and it took me a long time to forgive those people too.
Yeah, like that's really like I think early career you have to process early career mistakes and rejections so they don't
Yeah.
carry with you.
Yeah.
And you're new, like I wouldn't have like it only like just like you back then you didn't know what it was, but like now I'm like, is this where all of my like issues and insecurities lie from like my first job?
Yeah.
And I worked at a PWI, and it's just like, oh, okay, I can trace a lot of that back there. And I thought I had And I did. I had a good time, but it was just like, why was this so uneasy at the time that
Right.
I didn't feel in my skin and comfortable in this job? And looking back, that's what it is. Um,
Right.
so how did you, what were like the lessons you learned and how did like you overcome that piece? I heard a couple of things, but
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of like hear from you, like what were like your lessons and how did you kind of pick yourself up and kind of do your own thing just to bring you out, whether it was emotional funk or a career funk.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that moment kind of really hit my self-esteem, and it really, and even other moments like when I was trying to, I worked at freelance jobs and they wouldn't hire me on or whatever. And it really took me, I would say, until my I hate to say this, but until my early 30s, when I work at the company I have now, and I've been there for 4 years. But that kind of like showed me, I'm like, okay, well, I am good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not incompetent. And I do know my job. If I probably was in the wrong type of job that didn't fit my skill set. And so I think like finding a job that fit my skill set, it grew my confidence in a way where I was like, okay, I can do this. But I will say that my book, really writing it and completing it, I never thought I would finish my book. Usually most of my stories are kind of like halfway written, I give up and I'm like, okay, that's enough. But I actually was determined to finish it this time, and I finished it, and I marketed, and sometimes I use it on my resume, like, hey, I wrote a book. Here's
Mm-hmm.
my marketing. Here's how I grew my social media audience and stuff like that, and that impressed like people. And so, I think like having that on my own, and knowing that I built that kind of built my confidence to get my current job, and other stuff too. Knowing that I'm not, I'm, regardless of what other jobs, they might have not saw the value in me. I had to build up that value by knowing that, okay, this job didn't work, but it's okay because I'm still succeeding in this area. I'm still, like, I'm a good marketer. I'm a good, it's a team player, whatever. And I just felt like, okay, building stuff on my own kind of built my confidence in that sense. Um, I would say like it took me a long time to kind of gain like, trusting people and kind of getting back to, I wouldn't say my roots or whatever, but like, beforehand, I think I was a bit jaded. And the jadedness got in me, and I became really negative at one point, and I had to really kind of dial it back, and really kind of like go into my faith and pray, and also kind of like, you know I remember not last year, 2 years ago, I saw a therapist. um,
Yeah.
and I really kind of like talked with them about that. And I never knew how even stuff that affected you 10 years ago can still affect you today, and if you don't get it handled. And so, like, I think all of that kind of helps to the healing of me, to forgiving people that I felt wronged me, to building my confidence again, where I was able to feel like, okay, I can do this job, I can adult in life, I can, and I'm still learning, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But all of those factors, from, I think, building myself spiritually, mentally, and 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 all of those aspects can help.
Yeah, so I like the fact, and when I was writing the book, I, of course, there's always building your own business or having your own side hustle is always put in this income and money talk, but
Mhm.
I decided to put it in the career space,
Yeah.
as part of like the career commandments that I've learned along the way. And I like what you I like what you said, because I had to do the same thing. Like when I was in my funk, I had to just focus on something. It's something that I tell all young professionals that I coach who are in the same spot, who are looking to just find their purpose and find their rhythm in life, is sometimes you got to reach out. Like some people say, oh, I'm not the business type and I'm not the entrepreneur type. And it's like, sometimes it's not about owning a business. It's about owning something, a project, something you can put your energy into, something that you can make some assumptions, experiment and test your own ideas and say, oh, that works. That's good, Aaron. That's real good. Oh, this worked. Oh, you remember that idea you tried to put in the staff meeting and they shot it down? Well, use it over here.
Right.
Use all those ideas they cast away in here and use them over here. And that's what kept me, I think kept my head above water when I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm not happy here. And I found my happy when I actually said, okay, Aaron, what do you want to do? Let's work on this business. You said you wanted to be your business owner. Let's, you may need some extra money, but let's do something that you like to do. Let's tutor, let's ACT prep, and all of those things. And even in the period where I wasn't working, I wrote my first book. I went back to the drawing board and worked on the nonprofit that I always wanted to do. I put more time into the for-profit business that I was building, but all of those jobs led to the job that I have now that I really, really love. And sometimes, like, that's the advice that I give, students, like, find your own thing where you can, like, if you are, don't try to, like, fit into or get at a seat at the table. Like, bring that table, just like Tyler Perry said, bring the table, you build it and they will come. Like, now you've proven on your own that you can get clients. You can have clients that actually vouch for you. That's leadership, to say you took the effort and independence to do this separate project or this separate portfolio, whatever you want to do. So yeah, I really like that you took ownership. And two, you took the risk of doing an internship, of going backward and not having that pride and saying, I got a whole two degrees out here. Like, what I look like doing an intern. And then probably having to validate that with your friends and family. Like, what you doing? Like, an internship. You can't find, like, that, I think in itself takes courage and pride and boldness. And for you to set aside that pride.
Oh yeah, girl, life will set aside your pride. it's I've done, like, it's so crazy because, like, I've done, like, in my in my grad years, I've done unpaid internships. Oh my gosh, I'll never I was recommend, don't ever do that. Unless they're doing something. There's stipulations, of course, like if they are paying for your lunch or paying for your, for your travel, that's fine. But, like, just no money at all and you're coming out of your own pocket, that was a regret, I would say,
Yeah,
for me. But I mean, I think, like, it for me, it was just like building experience too. I wanted to build experience, and actually working at those 2 PR agencies did open a lot of doors that I didn't imagine. I remember I interviewed at this one of their clients' corporate offices. It was a big Fortune 500 company. And I was like, I think had I not had this job, I never would have been able to interview here for this. So I think that, it's more of, when you're younger, you can experiment more. You can figure out what works and what doesn't, what do you really want to do with your life. And also, like, you can kind of, especially as you get older and you kind of figure out what you want to do, things may change. Sometimes, I even think about 10 years ago, I'm not the same person that I am now. And so, what I thought I wanted to be 15 years ago, not the same.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your answers. Our time is coming to an end. I'm loving this conversation.
Yeah.
But what's, like, so you gave advice to the incoming college student. What is your advice now, especially for, I know so many students, and I preach this all the time. If like marketing and communications are one of those, show me you can do it, and prove to me that you've done this work. Like biology for us, my background's biology, like research and all of those things counted. But in this field, like internships and proving you can do this and just actually working in real time. But what is your advice to that student of color who's coming in, or who's graduated with marketing and find themselves stalled in the workforce? Like what would be your advice to them today?
I would say, like, don't be afraid to do something new. I think sometimes, like, we have a set view in what we want to do, especially in marketing. Marketing is so broad that, it's not just, for me, I was like, ad and PR agencies, that's it, nothing else. And, what I'm doing now, I kind of like, I'm working with a nonprofit, and, sometimes what in the PR agency actually was working really long hours, not that good of a pay. And so, I what I thought I wanted, I actually didn't turn out to be as great. So, I think um if you can, maybe intern or do a fellowship or some type of, maybe even temp. I think temping is great because it gives you an eye of, kind of like a preview. If you can get like 3 months or so, or working at one company, and you can kind of get a kind of like a preview of what it's like to work there. And if you are like, this is not it, you can be like, okay, that's enough. When the contract is over, that's it. So I think, like, don't be afraid of temping. Don't be afraid of doing something different that's not marketing related, or even something that is adjacent to marketing. Um, or, like, and that's for everyone. I think that, and also, I understand the generational difference between, Gen Zs and millennials, and we both have different mindsets, and they're going through a whole pandemic, which is different. And I can't speak to that, but I think, like, really just find out, don't be afraid to experiment with your job, find out what you're good at, and then utilize those skills to get a better job.
Yeah, everybody needs marketing, like everybody, from
Exactly.
repair shops to hospitals. It's like one of those jobs where everybody needs you. You just gotta, you have your choice to say, hey, I want this, this, and this, and you can probably find it, because there's, I want to make sure my work counts. So if you want a nonprofit, I want high, fast corporate lifestyle. There's that. I want to help small businesses. You have that. So yeah, that's one, and that's always the message I'm preaching to students that I come across. Like, if you're marketing, you need to experience right now. You need to figure out what it looks like right now, while you have a chance to actually experiment without high risk. You trying to find out, like, find that rhythm in, do all the projects, do all the research while you're in undergrad, to where once you graduate, you kind of know what you want. You've made connections, you networked. That was like what difference that makes when you know people already.
That, I would say, like, going back to a previous question, another regret I had was not networking.
Yeah.
I never knew the power of networking until I became an adult. And it literally can, like, if you make those connections, and I'm not trying to say, like, connect with someone on LinkedIn and ask them for a job, like, build a relationship with that person, and you'll be surprised of how they'll be able to help you, when you have a relationship with them already.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about all the great projects you're having to work. First, tell us where we can buy Confessions of Frustrated Millennial.
Yes, yes. So it's available on Amazon. It's through paperback and Kindle. Audiobook coming soon. And yeah, it's available on Amazon. You can buy it through also my website, Confessions of a Frustrated Millennial. That's a handful. You can just have EugeniaJefferson.com. But yeah, you can buy it there. And should I say my other projects or?
Yeah, you said you had podcasts. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
I need to add that to my podcast list.
Yeah. So I just created a podcast called A Scoop of Melanin, basically interviewing content creators and Black entrepreneurs and just like stories, just highlighting Black stories. And
I
that.
love the name. I
Oh, thank
absolutely
you.
love the name.
I was trying to do like a scoop, like you're getting a scoop from like a news scoop, like old school news scoop from journalism. So but yeah, that can be found on all platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, yeah, anywhere podcast is available.
Okay. And then I hear something about t-shirts.
Oh yeah. So I created a t-shirt line called Melanin and Happy. It's just random sayings on t-shirts if you want to find something to express yourself with, sassy sayings or whatever it is. We have it.
Love it. And she's also the meme queen. If you follow her, what's your Instagram handle? I do enjoy my
Yeah.
daily dose of your
I post
memes.
a lot of memes. Some people can't handle it, but yeah. My personal is Lady Genie, GENEI, 86, and my book is Frustrated Millennial Book on Instagram. This is all on Instagram. My T-shirt is Melanin and Happy handle, and my podcast is Scoop of Melanin. Not couldn't do the scoop. So Scoop of Melanin podcast, Instagram, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, I tweet about TV a lot. So enjoy
Oh, I have
watching
to. I
TV.
don't think we follow each other on Twitter. I have to add that.
Yeah, it's Jefferson. So yep.
Perfect. And you can go and purchase Live Wiser everywhere. Amazon, everywhere books are sold. If you've read it, please, make sure you review it. Us authors have a hard time
Yes,
getting
please.
us to review. If you read Confessions, make sure you review it. I did because I want to, what you do for others, you hope they
Oh
would.
yeah. Oh, I'm
So I
reviewing.
make sure I review all authors' work. Well,
Congratulations on the book too.
thank you so much. And thank you for joining me. I appreciate the conversation. I knew it was going to be great. I think we have so much in common.
Yes.
So yeah, make sure you go out, support Black authors, Live Wiser and Confessions of a Frustrated Millennial in stores, Amazon. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the listeners and watchers. We are live. And tune in Wednesday. I will be interviewing and chatting with one of my great friends, Jacqueline Twilley. She is a coach and author as well. And she is going to be, we're going to be talking about chapter 7, my confidential career commandments. And we're going to talk about negotiations and making sure that you know how to negotiate. We didn't get that lesson. We learned that later on. And it's a mistake. If you don't negotiate early on in your career, you will steadily be behind. And it happens. It happens to so many Black grads out there. So it's going to be great. Great information. And I'm still learning how to do that, even with bills and insurance. So negotiation and networking is key. That's the 2 lessons we've learned here tonight. Well, good night, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Right, bye.
Bye-bye.